What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Bobby's Big Board once again. Today we're kicking off a brand new series breaking down every NFL division from a Dynasty fantasy football lens, and we're starting with the NFC North. We'll be looking at each team's overall outlook, key fantasy players by position, recent performances, ADP values, and which guys you should be buying, selling, or stashing in your leagues. So if you're prepping for your rookie draft or just trying to make the right dynasty moves, this breakdown is for you. Let's jump right into it. Kicking off our NFC North fantasy breakdown, we're starting with the Green Bay Packers. They wrapped up the 2024 season with an impressive 11-6 record and a playoff appearance. Head coach Matt LaFleur continues to show off one of the more creative offensive minds in the NFL with a strong focus on unique run concepts and a passing attack that spreads the ball around. But from a fantasy perspective, that unpredictability can be a double-edged sword. Outside of Josh Jacobs, who figures to handle the bulk of the work on the ground, this is an offense that might frustrate fantasy managers due to how evenly targets are distributed. With such a young roster and no clear-cut alpha pass catcher, investing in Packers skill players might be more of a gamble than a guaranteed win. So, taking a quick look at the Packers QB room, Jordan Love is the clear-cut quarterback one there, with Malik Willis backing him up. Love's had an up-and-down start to his career. He finished really good in 2023 with a stretch of efficient, high-level quarterback play that helped the Packers push into the playoffs. But in 2024, even with some solid moments, he was still inconsistent in key areas like accuracy and decision making. He finished as the QB 17 overall despite missing 2 games, and realistically, he could have landed closer to that QB 12 to 15 range with a full season. That said, at his current ADP in startup drafts, I feel like you're paying for upside that isn't guaranteed. There's still too many question marks for me to fully buy in. I'm treating him as a sell if I already have him on my roster, and an avoid if I'm QB shopping in Dynasty. As for Malik Willis, I was actually impressed with what he showed in limited action while Love was sidelined. He brings legit dual threat ability and looked more polished than expected. He's probably not worth a roster spot in most formats right now, but I'd consider holding him if you've got deep benches. He could emerge as a bridge starter down the line if he finds the right opportunity. In terms of Packers running backs, the Packers backfield is headlined by Josh Jacobs, who handled over 300 touches last season and delivered a top 6 fantasy finish. He's thriving in LaFleur's system, which uses some of the most creative run concepts in the league. Jacobs has proven he can hold up to a heavy workload, and if you're looking for a reliable RB1 at a reasonable dynasty cost, somewhere around a mid to late first, he's absolutely worth targeting. He's got week-to-week consistency, touchdown upside, and the coaching staff is fully committed to him. I think he's being slightly undervalued in Dynasty based on his age, but he's still firmly in that RB1 conversation. Behind him, you've got Marshawn Lloyd, Green Bay's third-round pick last year, who missed most of his rookie season due to injury and an appendectomy, I believe is how you say it. He's a stash and hope type with upside if anything happens to Jacobs. Then there's Emmanuel Wilson, who saw over 100 touches in 2024 and was efficient, but I don't see standalone value here unless Jacobs goes down. He's a fringe roster guy in deeper leagues. Alright, so looking at the wide receiver room for the Packers, their big investment this offseason was Matthew Golden, taken in the first round. I thought he was a solid all-around prospect with reliable hands and some decent jump ball ability despite not being a true vertical threat, and I also don't really view him as a true wide receiver one at the next level. I personally don't see the upside to justify his current mid to late first round rookie draft price. I think he probably starts at the X as well. I'd avoid him for now unless he proves me otherwise. Then you've got Jaden Reed, who's the do-it-all slot guy in this offense. I'm talking end-around screens, yak opportunities. He's electric with the ball in his hands, and that's why he led all wide receivers last year in fantasy points generated per touch. The only problem, which is the same problem with all of these Packers wide receivers, is volume. His weekly target share is inconsistent, so expect some frustrating weeks if you roster him. As for the rest of the wide receivers in this offense, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, and Christian Watson, I'd be selling any of them if I can. The depth chart is crowded, and none of them have the upside for me to make them more than boom or bust prospects for now. Now, for the tight end position, Tucker Kraft is one of the few pass catchers here that I'd actually be buying right now. He had over 700 yards and 7 touchdowns last year, and with no real competition being added to the tight end room, I think he's an absolute value at the position. If you're a tight end needy team in Dynasty, I think he's worth targeting. All right, next up, we've got the Minnesota Vikings, who shocked a lot of people by finishing the 2024 season at 14-3. Not many had them pegged as playoff contenders, but under Kevin O'Connell's leadership, they turned heads, and rightfully so. O'Connell ended up winning Coach of the Year last year, and for good reason. He's proven to be one of the most dynamic offensive minds in this league. With their 2024 first-round rookie quarterback finally stepping into the starting role this season, paired with a loaded wide receiver room, the Vikings are set up for success on offense if the quarterback play lives up to expectations. But if there's any coach I trust to elevate a young quarterback, it's Kevin O'Connell. So taking a quick look at the quarterback room for the Vikings, we've got J.J. McCarthy, the former Michigan standout and 2024 first-round pick. Unfortunately, he missed his entire rookie season due to a knee injury, so we haven't seen a single NFL snap from him yet, which leaves us with plenty of questions. On tape at Michigan, JJ showed some solid athleticism, a good, not great arm, and played smart football, rarely turning it over with more than 5 interceptions in a season. The upside is absolutely there, and if there's one coach that I trust to unlock that potential, it's Kevin O'Connell. If he made Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins fantasy relevant, he can 100% develop McCarthy into a quality starter. If you already have J.J. McCarthy, hold tight and hope the breakout comes. But if you're looking to buy, tossing out a 2026 first might just get it done. Behind him, Sam Howell slots in as the backup, and honestly, I like him in that role. He's your classic gunslinger, high risk, high reward. If you don't believe in McCarthy's long-term future or you expect him to struggle, snagging Howell for a 2026 third or fourth round pick could be a savvy depth play. All right, up next, the RB room in Minnesota features Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, a duo that I think ends up splitting the workload, with Jones likely seeing a slight edge in touches. Aaron Jones quietly posted over 1,100 yards rushing last year and 5 touchdowns. He's still productive, but with age creeping in and an uncertain future, he's a decent sell right now if you can get back a mid to late second for him. That said, he can still be efficient in this offense for 2025. Jordan Mason, on the other hand, is coming off a mini breakout with the 49ers, over 700 yards and 3 touchdowns while filling in for CMC. He runs with power and burst, but I do wonder if he's another Shanny system product. We've seen plenty of running backs thrive in San Francisco, only to fail elsewhere. Add in some durability concerns. He started to fade after just 6 games of heavy use, and I'm leaning towards Jones as the safer bet in this Vikings backfield. Now let's talk about the real strength of this Viking offense, the passing game, centered around one of the best wideouts in football, Justin Jefferson. He posted over 1,500 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns last season and continues to dominate with elite route running, sticky hands, and a knack for getting open. If you have Jefferson, you're only moving him for a king's ransom. He's that good. Then there's Jordan Addison, their primary deep threat. While he's been productive, I'm not a big fan of how touchdown dependent he is for his fantasy value. He only had 63 catches for 875 yards, which is okay, but the 9 touchdowns really inflated his value. That kind of production isn't always sustainable. He's a boomer bust wide receiver too for me, and personally, I'm not buying unless his price dips. At tight end, they've got TJ Hawkinson. Last year was rough, under 400 yards and no touchdowns, but he was working his way back from an ACL tear. When healthy, he's one of the most productive tight ends in the league. If you're a contender in need of a tight end, he's a great target at his current value. You might be able to land him for a mid-second in some leagues, or maybe an early second if you have a heavy tight end premium with your league. Up next, we've got the Detroit Lions. Fresh off a dominant 15-2 season, this team is led by one of the most beloved coaches in football, Dan Campbell. He's created a gritty, hard-nosed culture that's gotten the most out of this roster. Over the last few years, the Lions have built one of the strongest locker rooms in the NFL, full of young talent and veteran leadership. Now, they did lose offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, who took the Bears head coaching job, and that might cause the offense to take a small step back. But make no mistake, this unit finished as the #1 offense last year, and they still have the pieces to be dangerous. With Jared Goff at quarterback, an elite running back room, and a stacked group of pass catchers, there are definitely some fantasy pieces in here that you're going to want to invest in. So, taking a quick look at the quarterback room for the Lions, it's headlined by Jared Goff, who's been absolutely balling out over the past couple seasons. I was a big fan of Goff as a prospect, and it's been awesome to see him finally hit his ceiling in Detroit. Last season, he put over a 70% completion rate, tossed 37 touchdowns, and finished near the top of the league with 4,600 passing yards. He's easily one of the best play-action quarterbacks in the NFL, and I view him as a high-end QB2 in Dynasty with legit staying power. Yeah, he's 30, but he's avoided major injuries and hasn't shown any real decline, so I'd project he's got another 5 to 10 years left of starting in him. Behind him, you've got Hendon Hooker, the developmental guy they drafted a couple years ago out of Tennessee. Unfortunately, when he's got his shot, he just didn't look ready. The polish wasn't there, and at this point, I'd expect the Lions to move on after his rookie deal. I'm not keeping him rostered in most leagues unless you're in a super deep format. Now, when it comes to running backs, the Lions have one of the best duos in football with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Honestly, no team had a more productive two-headed backfield last year, and it's rare to see both guys finish as fantasy relevant week in and week out, but the Lions made it work. Starting with Jahmyr Gibbs, he's the more dynamic weapon. He gets the high-value touches, early downs, explosive plays, and most of the receiving work. Gibbs is absolutely electric. He's got rare burst, elite speed, and makes the first guy miss consistently. He has legit RB1 upside every single week. If you're trying to trade for him, just know it's going to cost you multiple firsts and probably a solid player to add on to that. And honestly, I wouldn't be selling him even if I had him. Now, David Montgomery brings a different flavor, more physical with elite contact balance and a punishing style that fits Dan Campbell's culture to a T. He's the short yardage and goal line guy, and he's been reliable in that role. He's a bit older and locked in for at least another year or two under contract, so I'd value him as a mid-range RB2. But if you're not a contender, he's a player I'd definitely be looking to move off of while his value is still solid. Now looking at the Lions wide receiver and tight end group, it's a dangerous unit built for explosive plays off play action. Starting with Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's one of the best slot receivers in football, hands down. Over the past 3 seasons, he's been the model of consistency. He's coming off back-to-back wide receiver 3 finishes, putting up over 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns last year. He's elite in the short game, dangerous after the catch, and can separate downfield when asked to. If you're in a PPR league and want a reliable weekly stud who won't cost as much as a Chase or a Jefferson, St. Brown is a great trade target. Next up is Jameson Williams, the field stretcher. His speed on tape is insane. If you give him space, nobody's catching him. He's a true boom or bust wide receiver 2 though, because the targets aren't always there. He's flashed game-breaking ability, but the consistency hasn't shown up just yet. There are also some off-the-field concerns to monitor, but if he puts it together, he's a weekly game changer. The Lions did draft Isaac Tesla in the 3rd round this year. He's a height, weight, speed athlete with raw tools, but I see him more as a developmental piece than somebody who'll contribute early on. Keep him on your radar, especially in deeper leagues. At tight end, you've got Sam Laporta, who exploded for over 1,000 yards as a rookie, then regressed slightly, but still posted 700 yards and 7 touchdowns last year. He's a mismatch nightmare in the red zone and can line up all over the field. If you already have him, I would be holding, but if you're in need of a tight end and his manager is frustrated with the slight regression, this is a guy I'd be targeting in trade. All right, last but definitely not least, let's talk about one of the teams I'm most excited to watch this upcoming season. It's the Chicago Bears. They wrapped up 2024 with a rough 5-12 record, largely due to some of the worst coaching and play calling I've seen in a long time. But things are looking way up now. They cleaned house and brought in Ben Johnson as head coach, fresh off leading the league's #1 offense as the offensive coordinator in Detroit. Now paired with one of the most talented offensive units in football, the Bears are primed to take a massive step forward. Caleb Williams had a solid rookie season, and with improved play calling and more experience under his belt, he's suited up to take a major leap in year 2. This offense is about to get fun. Taking a quick peek at the Bears QB room, it's led by 2024's first overall pick, Caleb Williams, one of the most productive and hyped college quarterbacks we've seen in a long time. In his rookie season, Caleb threw for over 3,500 yards, 20 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions, and tacked on 400 rushing yards too. And keep in mind, he did that under some of the worst play calling in the league last year. Despite that, he flashed elite level traits, making jaw-dropping throws once or twice a game at least, showing off his arm angles, arm strength, and the ability to extend plays with his legs. He's mobile, smart with the football, and can make every throw on the field. What makes this even more exciting is that the Bears heavily invested in fixing the offensive line, signing a Pro Bowl level guard, a dependable center, and using a second rounder on a tackle. Caleb's about to have more protection and more weapons than ever. He's primed for a breakout sophomore season. If there's any chance you can still buy him at his current price, don't hesitate, he is a must buy. As for his backup, Tyson Bagent is a fine spot starter, but there's no reason to roster him unless Caleb goes down. As for the Bears running back room, it's led by DeAndre Swift, who saw over 250 carries last year, but was honestly pretty underwhelming. That said, I chalk most of that up to poor guard play and one of the worst offensive play calling setups in the league. Now under Ben Johnson and behind a revamped O-line, I think Swift's ceiling gets a big boost. We've seen what he can do behind a top tier unit in Philadelphia. If you can grab him for a late second, I think he's worth another swing. As for the rest of the room, they brought in Kyle Monangai from Rutgers, one of the best pass protecting backs in this class, and a natural fit for short yardage and goal line situations. Think of him as the Thunder in a Lightning Thunder combo, similar to what Ben Johnson used in Detroit. He's a solid taxi stash in deep leagues for now. Roschon Johnson is also still hanging around. He might technically be the RB2 for now, but truthfully, I think Monangai beats him out by mid-season probably. Roschon shouldn't be rostered unless you're desperate for a low-end handcuff. Alright, looking at the Bears wide receiver and tight end room, it might be the most stacked group in the entire NFL. Leading the way is DJ Moore, their veteran Z receiver who's coming off another solid season. He brings elite yak skills, big play speed, and can be used creatively in screens and end arounds. I think he's worth a late first in Dynasty, but keep in mind he's already 28, so the long-term outlook is a bit limited. Next up is their presumed X receiver, Rome Odunze. I loved Rome coming out of Washington. His physicality and ability to win contested catches stood out big time. Even with the offense struggling last year, he still managed over 700 yards and 3 touchdowns while playing as the wide receiver 3. Now that he's expected to be the number 2 option, I think he could break out. He's worth a mid to late first if you believe in the upside. Their slot weapon is Luther Burden III, taken in the 2nd round this year. I was shocked they passed on a running back here, but the talent is undeniable. Burden was the best yak receiver in this class and has a lethal slot fade route. I had him lower in my rankings because of the landing spot, but once DJ Moore and Cole Kmet are gone, I think Burden becomes a huge part of this offense. If you can get him in the mid-second, I think that's a steal, but you're going to have to be patient for his production. At tight end, Cole Kmet had a decent season with 400 plus yards and 4 touchdowns, but with Colston Loveland coming in, his future in this offense looks murky at best. Kmet's a decent tight end too when he's playing significant time, but I'd be willing to sell him for a late second if I could. And that brings us to Colston Loveland, taken 10th overall in this past draft. He's got size, athleticism, strong hands, and made some ridiculous catches at Michigan. I love the long-term upside, but with all the mouths to feed and Kmet still on the roster, you probably won't get the production you want year 1. If you draft Loveland, just know it's a 1-year stash situation before he becomes a tight end 1 candidate. And that wraps up our NFC North breakdown. Whether you're all in on Caleb Williams or trying to decide what to do with Jordan Love, I hope this video gave you some clarity heading into your 2025 fantasy season. Don't forget to drop a like, comment who you're buying or fading in this division, and subscribe if you're new. We've got every division coming soon. Appreciate all the support, and I'll catch y'all in the next video right here on Bobby's Big Board.
Hey.